come to India and experience being a millionaire. Have someone do these jobs for you. Enjoy your enjoy the wealth that you've acquired over this 20, 25, 30-year of period of making your money, and be able to assist other people in India who are more unfortunate than us, right?
Hello everyone, welcome to another episode of Desi Return. Today, I'm really excited to have Renu on our show. Renu was born in West Africa. She spent most of her life international in Hong Kong, Canada, before deciding to move back to India. She is currently living in Pune and she has been living in India for almost 17 years. I'm really looking forward to the discussion. There is a lot of insights, information from her experience living abroad most of her time. And also, like when she moved, her kids were at different stages in terms of the schooling. A lot of insights, a lot of information to look forward. With that, welcome Renu to the show.
Thank you for having me at your show.
Great. So Renu, if we can start with a bit about your background and your journey and what made you to move back to India, I think that would be very helpful.
Okay, so my name is Renu Sakrani. I was born in West Africa. My father was working in West Africa at the time, and we moved to India in the early 70s. We were there for a couple of years. My father went out to look for work. He was able to find a job in Hong Kong, and we moved to Hong Kong in the early 70s. I grew up in Hong Kong, went to school there, got married there, had my first child there, and I watched the Tiananmen Square massacre happen in 1989, the same year that my child was born. So I was fearful of what the condition of political condition of Hong Kong would be, and being of a minority group. We were Indians living there. I thought if they can do this to their own people, what security did we have? Hence the trying to see where we could move. I visited the US. I didn't like the US very much. And then I had the opportunity to visit Canada as well. I liked Canada, and we decided to put our papers in to migrate to Canada. It took us 4 years to get the visa because that time a lot of Hong Kong people were trying to move out due to the insecurity of the government. So finally we got the visa in 94 and I moved, and my husband at the time said he would join me in 2 years. So I moved there with 2 young children, one aged 5 and one aged 1.5. Lived in Vancouver for 13 years and had a good life there. My mom used to come and visit. My father expired in 96, so my mom was on her own. So she would come and spend 6 months of the year with me every year. And in 2007, I decided that I didn't want to live in Canada anymore. And I made the choice to move back to India. I had visited India every year or every couple of years, visiting my mom with the kids. And I had seen the changes that were happening in India. So I took the plunge in 2007, moved back with 3 kids, one aged 18, second child aged 14, and the youngest aged 7. So we really had a mixed bang of ages over here. The children were a little bit skeptical about moving back to India, as every teenage child is. The 7-year-old was, she was okay. She just wanted the dog to move with us. She said, if the dog goes, I go. So what I'm trying to do here is I'm trying to explain to individuals who are confused about what choices they should make. Having lived internationally my entire life, I chose India and I saw the growth that was happening within India. And I realized that the quality of life for what we have to pay here in India compared to what you would get in US or Canada was far affordable for me. The children moved back. My eldest joined college over here. My middle child went into he went into grade 9. He was 14, so went to grade 9. And my youngest was, of course, in primary school. So for the individuals who think India doesn't offer a good education, or maybe is not on par with what you get out in the US, there are very many good schools in India right now. I chose an IB school because my children wanted to go back to Canada to further study.
Yeah.
So they were in an international baccalaureate school. I didn't put them in a local school because, of course, being 14, he wouldn't have been able to adapt, didn't speak any Hindi. And so I found that my middle child did have the greatest disconnect with settling in because he was 14. So he did schooling over here, but the minute he graduated, he wanted to head back to Canada, which was the intention anyway, because we had money put in RESPs and an educational savings plan in Canada. So going back to Canada was the option for them. So my daughter did my eldest did a couple of years of college here. Then she wanted to master's in English, and she decided that Canada would be a better choice for her. So she moved back to Canada in 2011. And the younger one, of course, was here all the way till she graduated. So I'm happy to answer any questions you may have from your viewers, Avinash, for what they are curious about, or what they are what their hesitation might be to make the move back. Because I can tell you personally, for me, it's been the best choice. I see so many people struggling with old parents living in India, and not being able to make the choice of whether to come back and spend the rest of their parents' lives with them. My mom left us in 2015, so I was able to give her 8 good years before she left. So I feel really good about this, that, I was able to spend quality time with her. And like I said, the life here in India is far more affordable at a fraction of what it would cost us in Canada or the US. So I'm happy to answer your questions.
No, yeah, thanks a lot for giving such a detailed overview. I think, there's a lot of information there. I would like to definitely pack and maybe unpeel like some of these aspects. So I think you lived majority of your time in Hong Kong, and I think maybe close to more than a decade in Canada. So if you can compare and contrast, I think you also mentioned, I think the best place to live in India, I think from your perspective, like, among those countries. So from your perspective, if you can compare and contrast like a Hong Kong versus Canada, I think you also mentioned briefly about US, some stint there, and then India, if you can give like a high level strokes, that would be very helpful, from your perspective. Yeah.
Yeah. So the thing is that in the Western world, I just find that the life that you have there is a lot more lonely unless you live in a subdivision which has a lot of Indian people. If your neighbors are white, Caucasians, I'm speaking of my own experience.
Sure.
I'm not generalizing over here. The thing is that help is not as easily available as it is in India. For an example, if you have an accident in Canada or in the US, people will be very hesitant to come out and help you. You have an accident here in India, 10 people come to pick you off the bike, to check if you're okay, to offer you water, to take you to the hospital. So I feel, at a stage, of course, when I moved back to India, I was in my late 40s. I had done the shoveling of the snow, mowing your own lawn, being a parent who lived out of her car. One has baseball practice, one has hockey practice, one child has to go to a school which teaches French. So I was a stay-at-home mom. I was fortunate enough to be a stay-at-home mom. So, but the job that a stay-at-home mom does is 24/7. You're looking at my husband was working in Hong Kong at the time, so I was a single parent living out there. My mom used to come and visit me 6 months of the year. She used to assist when she was there. She couldn't drive, so all the driving had to be done by myself. I had decided that I had washed enough bathrooms in my lifetime. I had shoveled enough driveways, and I wanted a better quality of life for myself. And I do not regret this move. In fact, today when I look back and I think I did it at a time where I was able to adapt to change, because all of us become so comfortable in our own space that, change is really hard at later stages of your life. And everyone just becomes so complacent that, this is the life that I enjoy. And I always ask people, I have a lot of friends who tell me they're multimillionaires because they own $1 million homes in the US. Yet what is the quality of life they're living? They're mowing their own backyard lawns, they're shoveling the snow, they're having to take out the trash, pick up the garbage. And I'm thinking, if you tell me you're a millionaire, come to India and experience being a millionaire. Have someone do these jobs for you. Enjoy the wealth that you've acquired over this 20, 25, 30-year of period of making your money, and be able to assist other people in India who are more unfortunate than us, right? I say, if God's been good to you, learn to pay it forward. I'm living in India and I'm able to help so many people, in the space that I'm at. And it gives me a very good feeling to know that in India, plus another thing in India is your money works for you. With the Modi government, the last 10 years, the change that I've seen in India, I can wire $100,000 to US, from bank account to bank account, no questions asked. I go to the US, my brother and my son live in the US. They try to wire money to me. My goodness me, you got to sign 50 pages of paperwork. People are asking you, why does this money need to go where it needs to go? Banking has become so easy in India with our different forms of payments that we can use. You can go to the panwala, you can buy one cigarette for 20 rupees. You can say to the panwala, mere paas chutta nahi hai, and the panwala will say, koi baat nahi hai, kal de do.
Yeah.
So I can share some experiences of where the country came together during COVID. I lived 56 days in my apartment by myself and didn't see a single soul because we shut down. Buying grocery was really a challenge. You would have to go and you would have to stand in line with 1,000 other people or 2,000 other people. And I have had a couple of health issues. So at that time, I wasn't very happy to go and be with 1,000 people buying groceries. So I took a lot of care and I opted to do online purchasing, e-commerce, which became really, really big in India at that time, right? I mean, it just boomed. So I would order groceries online, and the gentleman who was supposed to deliver to me, I would say, okay, let me do the payment. And they would say, no, please don't send us the money because we're not sure if we can get from one subdivision to another subdivision. So you only pay after you receive your box of groceries. So I said, fine. I remember the one time that I went down to get my groceries. I had a mask on, I had gloves. I went down, I had my keys, my apartment keys in my pocket, and I coincidentally had forgotten my phone. So I said to him, I said, I don't have my phone. How do I do the payment? And he said, madam, you go up, you take your groceries up, and you pay us. When you're up in your apartment and you're safe, I can tell you, Avinash, you cannot go to Costco. You cannot go to Walmart. You cannot go to Kroger. You cannot go to Safeway or Save-On, buy groceries, leave the store without paying. The whole country came together. People supported each other, only in India.
No, yeah.
Really only in India. I can tell you, I've lived in so many different countries, and the unity where the country came together, the comforts that we have here. We may not have the infrastructure that you have in the US or in Canada, but you know what? Every country has its drawbacks. Medical system has failed in Canada, in London, in the UK. I have people who are saying that they have brain tumors and they are on a list to be operated 3 years later. What happens if the brain tumor explodes? Do you have a life? So I can say you may have money in the bank, but you have to ask yourself, what quality of life do you have, right? And you have to come to a point in your life when you have to ask yourself, how much is enough? You can say, yes, I would like to be Mr. Ambani. I would like to be Mr. Ratan Tata. You can say that. I'm not saying that you don't say that, but also you have to ask yourself, at what cost?
Yeah.
What are we exchanging, for having that quality of life? So I live in India by myself. I support myself. I'm very blessed to be able to be in India working, be a self-employed person, have some investments, allow my money to work for me. You can put your money, you don't want to do any share market, mutual funds, you can put your money in a fixed deposit, earn 7.5% interest. No country gives you 7.5% interest. I have my brother who constantly argues with me saying that your rupee is being devalued all the time. My question over here is, if I'm earning in rupees and spending in rupees, how does it matter? It only bothers me when I have to go to the bank to buy dollars to go to the US. What used to cost me $65 rupees to a US dollar today cost me 84. I ask myself, how many trips a year am I doing? And if my money is generating a 7% interest for me in the bank, then you know what? The price is very, very short-lived for me to pay to have to go to the US and buy the dollars, right? So everything comes at a cost. We have to ponder and we have to ask ourselves, what do we want to compromise, right? Do we want to have a good quality of life? Or do we want to keep working for the rest of our life, picking up our trash? If you're sick in India, you just have to make one phone call.
Yes.
I have a helper who comes to work for me. She comes 2 hours in the day. The minute she hears I'm sick, I had COVID once, she brought tiffin. She put it outside the door. She left it outside the door. She said, please come and pick up your food. I mean, who does this, right? Yes. The thing is that I can tell you, I live by myself over here, but I have a support system. I can call someone at 4 o'clock in the morning, and I have 3 numbers I can phone. One of the 3 will show up. No questions asked. So for me, the thing is that I always ask people, what do we want?
Yes.
At this stage in our life, right? I mean, what are we looking for? What are we willing to compromise to have this, right? So for me, I can call, I drive, but I don't have a permanent driver. We have a company, we have a couple of companies in India, all over India, that give you driver for the day.
Yeah.
So if I'm going out to a party and I want to drink, I will call driver for the day. He will come. He will take me to where I need to be. He will wait. He will bring me back. Bonded, trusted. If I buy stuff and I leave it in the back of the car, nothing goes missing. The thing is that there are a lot of luxuries that are available to us at a fraction of the cost, right? I mean, I hear people who have lived in India their entire lives go to the US for 2 or 3 years and then come back and say, oh, India is a horrible country. US is so much better. And I ask people, you've lived in India your entire life. You go to US for 2, 3 years and then India is the most horrible country. Well, then you don't need to come back.
Yeah.
You must stay in the US and you must face the consequences of gun violence. There are so many things, right, that are happening. People say India is not safe. I ask, which country is safe these days, right? We have 2 wars going on and we're living our lives as if everything is normal. Yeah. Could this have happened 25, 30 years ago? Probably not, right? But the thing is that so much has changed. And at least, safety is not a concern in India. I have never felt unsafe here. I mean, of course, there are pockets and places that you wouldn't venture to in every city, every country. But by and large, as a woman living by myself, do I feel safe? Yes, absolutely. My mom lived here by herself. My father passed away in 96. She lived in an apartment by herself. She never felt unsafe. So, there's a lot of things to think about when people ask, should I be moving back to India?
For sure. I mean, I think the key thing is, I think the definition of the quality of life and, what's important for anyone. I think it's a cost that you keep explaining, right? What is that you want to have in your life and
Absolutely.
the cost you're trying to pay. I mean, I think it's absolutely right. It just depends on what's key priority for you, you just, and then what is that you're giving up because that's the important thing that you want to achieve in the life.
Correct. And you also have to, and I'm telling you today, there is nothing that is not available in India.
Yeah.
If you're willing to pay the price.
Sure.
I love to eat avocados. Today we get avocados in India. I pay 500 rupees for 4 avocados. You know what? If I want it, it's available. It's not that we cannot get it here. There is nothing that you cannot get here. You want to eat cherries, you want to eat imported cherries, available. You just have to pay the price. So I ask people, when people say, oh, what does the country hold for you? The country holds for me humanity. The country holds for me love. The country holds for me unity. The country holds for me compassion. The country holds for me digitization. We have reached a tremendous growth in digitization today, right? I mean, you go and get your shoe repaired at the mochi. You can pay by your phone.
Yeah.
You don't need cash, So the thing is that even the simplest of simplest things is available to you without an exchange of cash, So I ask people, I'm in a really good space. I love India. I've never lived in India. I do hold a Canadian passport. A lot of my friends hold that against me. They say, oh, but you're Canadian. I said, yes, but I pay taxes in India. I'm very happy to pay taxes to Mr. Modi. I do not want to pay taxes to Mr. Trudeau. I'm very candid about this. My money in India works for me. I am happy to have the OCI and the Canadian passport. I live in India visa-free. I can go in and out of the country as many times as I want, no questions asked. And for me, the thing is that everything is available to us if we're willing to pay the price.
Got it.
Yeah.
And then I think there was one point that you mentioned. I just want to touch base a little bit about that. I know, at what age you're moving to country, where you can still flexible to adapt and all that stuff. So just curious, after spending, more than 3 decades outside India, and then when you are moving back to India in early 2027, how was the adjustment? Was there anything that you wanted to share for somebody who lived so much abroad?
Yeah. So I moved back in 2007, and I can tell you that India teaches you patience. You have to learn to be patient. I'm into energy healing. I'm a pranic healer by profession. I found my guru, spiritual guru, when I moved back to India. I did not meet him in his physical form. He had already left his physical form, but I think the calling was so large that I was able to join into the school of pranic healing. There were challenges, but I think, Avinash, what it was for me is I was determined to make this work. I think if people move back saying, I'm doing this for my parents, whatever the reason is, right? I'm doing this for a better quality of life. I'm doing this because my spouse and I split up, and I think I can afford a better life in India with the money that I have today, various reasons, right? So the thing is that you have to be sure that this is what you want, right? And I think once you have made the decision, then everything kind of like falls into place. And I truly believe as a human being, what we give out into the universe corresponds. I have met such amazing people in India. Everybody asks me, but you live alone. I said, yeah, but I'm not lonely. There's a very big difference in being in a house full of people and still being alone, feeling alone. but being by yourself and still feeling fulfilled, right?
Yeah.
So the thing is that I am a counselor and a psychotherapist by profession as well. So for me, the thing is that I'm happy. I'm also a moderator on the Facebook groups SOS Global Indians.
Oh,
I
okay.
answer a lot of questions over there to people who are trying to move back and are stuck. And I tell them, I said, if you want to have a little better insight of what challenges you may face, I'm happy to talk to you about that as well.
Yeah.
Every country has challenges, but the thing is that if we're determined and we know that this is for the good of, I want to spend my father's 65, he's been ailing and he hasn't had good health. I don't want to live with the regret of not being able to have been with him for the last 5, 7, 10 years of his life, whatever he has left.
Sure.
I would like to come back. I'm the only son. I would like to do this for my parents. They did so much for me. They were the ones who, put me through school, my education, whereas I could go and I could be a COO in XYZ company in the US or Canada. I would like to give back to them. So there are so many reasons why people are in a dilemma as to whether to come back. And I'm happy to answer those questions, because for me, the thing is that I'm happy to answer the questions from a perspective of a person who's never lived in India.
Yeah, definitely.
Born and bred outside of India. It's one thing to have said, well, I spent my first 20 years in India, and then I moved to the US. For me, no, so India taught me patience. India taught me compassion. India taught me that there is so much love in this country, humanity, right? Where people, even a person who doesn't know you, if you fall off the bike, somebody's offering you water, someone's offering you a ride, someone's offering you to take you to the hospital. I've done it personally. There was a boy who fell off a bike, and I picked him up and I drove him home. And you won't believe it, we've never met, never, him and I. But he WhatsApps me. He asked me how I'm doing. He checked in on me during COVID. Who does this?
Yeah.
Right? And he's always saying to me, ma'am, I would really like to meet you. I don't forget the good deed. It was midnight. I picked him up. I was alone. I still drove him home. Another good Samaritan drove his bike to his building. These things happen. I can tell you numerous incidents that have happened with me. Or to me, where I realized that this was one of the best decisions that I made. Now, this is my personal journey, my personal opinion, right? However, I feel what you give out comes back to you many, many times.
Completely agree with that statement. I can't.
So I am living proof of this. So I say yes. India has its drawbacks. We have. I can't vote here, but I do have an opinion. And when I give my opinion to the locals who live here, they're like, oh, but you don't vote. I said, yes, but I pay taxes. And because I pay taxes, I have a voice. So I can ask these questions that I need to ask. So I'm happy to have had this opportunity to share my journey with you, because I read so many comments as a moderator on SOS Global Indians, where people are wanting to come back. But they have so many questions, right? Will I be able to adapt? Will my children be able to adapt? And for the people who are not sure if their children will be able to adapt, I say, if you are convinced this is something you want to do and you are not in a dilemma, everything else falls into place. Children are very resilient. They bounce back. And if you're coming with a teenage child and they want to do 2, 3, they're coming back with you 2, 3 years in India, and then they want to go back to college in US, you would have done that in any case. So how does it matter? At least you don't live with the guilt of not being with your parent for the last few years, or not being able to give to your mother some time back as a son because she's a widow, whatever the reason be, right? So we have to make these decisions for ourselves. So
Definitely. No, thanks for sharing that. I'm also being cognizant about the time, but I think there is an important aspect that a lot of people have questions. I know you mentioned about your kids at different ages when they moved. So I wanted to, get a little bit specific in that. Like, the first kid, I think she went into the college, right? Like, so I'm assuming, I think she was born in Hong Kong. So she has a non-Indian passport. What are the criteria, and was she able to get into the college? So if you can talk a little bit about that. I
Yeah,
think
so because we all are Canadians, and
Oh, yeah.
what we did is when I moved back to India in 2006 into 2007, the government had just introduced the OCI. So prior to that, there was the PIO, person of
Yeah.
Indian origin, right?
Yeah.
So we did have Indian passports, but we gave up our Indian passports to get the Canadian citizenship in 1998. So yeah, coming back to India, because I had applied for an OCI before I left Canada, I came back here with a document that said I was a person of Indian origin. I did hold an Indian passport at some point in my life. To get into college, she got in as a local. PAN card. Yeah, yeah.
Okay.
I'm telling you, the government of India has done so much good for its citizens who are returning. She got into India we paid local fees. We didn't pay any exorbitant fees. She drank chai at the canteen, and we bought her an Activa. She was on a scooty, she would ride herself wherever she needed to go. She just blended in. Yeah, couple of challenges for her because she didn't speak Hindi so well. We used to watch a lot of Bollywood films in Canada, so the understanding of Hindi was there. It was just practice, and then she blended in. Yeah, she studied here as a local. My second child, who was 14, he had a little bit more disconnect because he was in a school with politicians' sons, lawyer's son. So everybody was coming from a very affluent background. At the time when I moved back, I bought a secondhand car. So he would get out of a secondhand car, whereas everyone else was getting out of a Mercedes-Benz or a BMW. So there was a little bit of a disconnect there. However, you know what? I will say to you as a parent of 3 children of various ages, if you are determined to make this work, if you have made this choice and you're doing it for whatever reason, and if you are settled, your children will be settled. If you constantly complain, even after coming back and saying, oh, the country is A, it's B, it's C, and identify all the shortcomings within the country, your children will follow suit, right? Yeah. The apple doesn't fall so far from the tree, right? I tell everybody this. So the thing is that if you're convinced that this is what you wanted to do, and give your children the option, say, you know what, we've come back, finish your high school here, and if you want to go back, go back. I'm not stopping you, but at least the family is together, the unity, of having an experience of living in India. I think it's really important. My youngest is actually, so I have one child who's Hong Kong born, one child who's Pune born, my middle child, and my youngest is Canadian born. Yeah. My Canadian born says she's from Pune because her formation years were here. Yeah. She loves coming back. Every trip she comes back, she has a good set of friends who she connects with. Even though she's been gone so many years, they're still in touch with each other. She comes back, she never feels disconnected. There's someone coming to pick her up in a car. She says to me, Mama, the guys in Pune, the girls in Pune, they're so nice. In Canada, I can't find people who would want to pick me up or drop me home, or, be concerned of whether I got home, safe and sound. And she says, Mama, it's just a different quality of people in India and a different breed. This is from a 24-year-old child today. Yeah. So, I mean, my children speak for it, right? So for me, the thing is that having been here, she spent 7 years in India before she transferred to Hong Kong, where her dad was, and then transferred back to Canada. But she loves coming back to India. Any given moment, if I say, she says, yeah, Mom, I'd like to come home. So yeah, there it is. So like I said, I am happy to have had the opportunity to share my journey. And if you have any other questions of me, please shoot them out and I will answer.
Okay, that's great. I'm just also being cognizant. So is there anything that we haven't covered or that you would like to bring up, or any advice that you want to share with the future aspirants?
I think a lot of people are concerned about their pension in the US, if they have a pension in the US. I think the Indian government has a lot of has streamlined a lot of those laws for how the money can be brought in, what kind of taxation they need to pay. They just need a good chartered accountant. They need a good CA. I have a good CA who does accounts for local people and NRIs and returning Indians as well. I was really fortunate to have found him. I've recommended him to a lot of my friends. He's been able to sort out all their queries. So I think for people who have questions with regards to that, how to bring your money in, what are the taxation rules you may face, things like that. I think talking to a good CA, having a good CA will actually streamline these things. And like I said, there are a lot of different portfolios which you can have today in India: mutual funds, shares, a lot of different channels of investment that you could look at, where you can make your money work for you. I know a lot of my friends put money in the bank and then they just live off the interest. Yeah. So, you set it up in such a way that you have money coming into your account every month. And so you never touch the principal, right? So the thing is that there are a lot of options people can look at, a lot of channels. Yes, you may not, being a corporate, having a $200,000 job in the US, you may not be able to get that kind of salary in India. Depending on what you're doing, depending on what package you're coming back with. Are you being transferred by your company? So I saw a lot of disconnect happening after COVID. A lot of the corporates, I teach English to expats as well here in Pune. I saw a lot of the corporates not bringing their expats back because it was a real burden financially on the expat company. So what they opted to do is just fly the entire family. So pre-COVID, the family, the children, husband, wife, all used to live here. And all the cost was incurred by the company. But post-COVID, a lot of corporates decided that no, we'll just fly in our German counterpart when they need to be in India for a week or 10 days. So the families reside back. So the expat population did diminish to a smaller number. However, I can tell you, when I go to Germany and I visit my German friends, they would like to come back to India. They say they miss India. Imagine foreigners living in India, the quality of life, the people, the hospitality, I remember my brother came to visit and we were sitting at a 5-star hotel, and we were having breakfast there, and the breakfast came, and I think the eggs were, the omelet was very runny. The eggs hadn't been cooked well. And I sent them back, and my brother said, "What? You're sending the eggs back?" And I said, "Yes, they were not cooked well." And he's like, in the US, we have to eat what they serve us. I said, "This is why we live in India, because we have the service." Yeah. So it comes at a cost. All of it does.
Yeah. No, thanks for sharing that. I completely echo with you in terms of working with the CA, especially from when you're trying to do the taxation on both different countries and planning your investments and make money work for you on those aspects. As well as I think find the strong reason why you want to make a move and make a decision with the move.
Yeah. Absolutely. If you're wishy-washy and still on the fence, not gonna help. Right? You have to do this with conviction. This is what I want to do. I've made enough money. I would like to now live a comfortable life. And, I see people so stressed at 50. I've lost so many friends in the early 50s, heart attack, because they're just under so much stress for mortgages that have to be paid. Recently, so many people in the US in IT have lost their jobs. They've just bought a new home, they don't know what to do, I see the struggle, make the choice of moving back to India. Yeah. Better quality of life. So, yeah.
Yeah. No, thanks a lot for your, what was that? Sorry.
I said less stress here.
Less stress here, yeah. Yeah. So yeah, thank you very much for your time and for sharing your journey, especially for someone who was grown up abroad and who hasn't lived in India, and sharing your journey with us, and how the kids adapted, and a lot of valuable information, I think, from your conversation. So really thankful and appreciate you sharing your journey with us today.
Okay, thank you. Have a wonderful day.
Thanks. Thank you all for joining us on this insightful journey of Desi Return. If you enjoyed this episode and want to explore more stories and expert advice, make sure to subscribe and hit the notification bell. Don't forget to leave a comment below with your thoughts and experiences. By the way, check out the links in the description below for our Facebook group and social media for updates and engaging discussions, as well as connecting with fellow Desi Returners. Thank you once again, and until next time, may your Desi Return journey be filled with joy, growth, and endless possibilities.